Hello, everyone. Thank you for your invitation to the conference. We are going to present our research titled Pandemic Crisis and the Digital Transformation, Implications for Electronic Consumer Behaviors. We are Panagiota XANTHOPOULOU and Alexandros SAHİNİDİS. And let's start our presentation. As you can see for your title, we are going to present some changes that occurred due to different crises, for example, economic crisis, pandemic crisis, which changed the daily lives of people and the business world in general. For example, consumers and organizations need to find new ways and methods for serving their daily lives, for serving commercial activities. So many organizations turned their operations to e-commerce by creating online stores, for example, e-shops, as well as other innovative services, mainly with the help of digitalization, which will help them to meet the changing needs of consumers. On the other side, consumers have now turned to the use of digital tools in order to meet their expectations, their daily needs, and buy goods or services. The purpose of our research is to study in depth the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on consumer behavior from its appearance until today. So we want to see how consumer behavior has been changed during COVID pandemic and after this pandemic. Through the study, the present research will evaluate consumer behavior for online shopping at both national and European levels. So it's about a literature review. The aim is to collect sufficient and reliable data and information which can answer the following research questions. First question, what was the impact of the pandemic crisis on consumer behavior? How has pandemic disease affected consumers' online shopping? How the use of technology changed during the pandemic, and what are the new market trends, especially focusing on e-commerce? This is our research design. The first step was about data collection. Data collection came from various sources, as we said before, such as surveys conducted by agencies or data from online stores and social networks. Of course, we also made a content analysis with no specific software, but we concluded in some themes from the literature review were identified and related to the research topic through the study of the researchers. The conclusions drawn from these surveys are both the conclusions of the original researchers and the conclusions of independent sources regarding consumer behavior in relation to online shopping. Some facts from the literature review. As we said during the introduction, the current pandemic, and not only the current pandemic, but in general, every crisis, brings changes to how people react to their daily life and how organizations meet consumers' needs. Major changes were seen in the way that older people began to view the internet. People who did not know how to use computers or technologies or digital services, for example, started to become more involved as a result of learning exactly how they can advantage of a great extent. Subscriptions, for example, TV services, especially during the lockdowns, were mainly observed. We could say that the way in which consumers in Greece still started to use the internet is very similar to USA or with other countries. Too many businesses around the world chose to invest in e-commerce during the crisis, during the pandemic crisis. Their targeting and marketing strategies mainly use digital technologies and new technologies in order to see their revenues increase. Even now, after the pandemic period, it seems that e-commerce for too many of these stores continue with similar or even better performances than during COVID or previously. Figure N Figure 1 describes the digital economy and e-commerce in general and we show that it is an integral part of sustainability, which has been promoted in recent years by European Union. Here we are going to discuss about e-commerce and consumer behavior in the midst of a pandemic. Consumers were very influenced both in what kind of products they would buy and in the quantity of them. There are a lot of studies which underline that e-commerce has blossomed during the pandemic and can now be considered as one of the most essential shopping channels, if not the most essential worldwide. Nevertheless, until today, the physical purchase of a product in a store seems to be the first choice of every consumer. This was a common view. This has to do with whether the consumer trusts a product or a company, because trust is very important, especially during digital governance or digital sales or e-commerce. In many cases, every customer wants to see the product first before buying it. Through this specific research of Zikov and Krakow 2021, it also appears that groups of consumers with specific consumer behaviors were created. One group of them is that of consumers who work from home. This group prefers an electronic-friendly lifestyle. A second group was creating is that of younger people. We mostly refer to people of Gen Z, but also to the millennials who seem to prefer to do their daily shopping or the weekly shopping via mobile phone. For this group, it appears that the pandemic did not affect their consumer behavior. Finally, a third group that emerged is a group of consumers who put their personal health and safety first. This group is much smaller compared to consumers who do not seem to be completely aware of the dangerousness of the pandemic and who did not think that buying products from physical stores is dangerous during that time. This third group will choose to shop for products from physical stores, taking all possible measures that can ensure their health and safety. For example, face masks. Here we are going to discuss about some new trends in e-commerce due to the pandemic. Surveys show that in Greece, 6 out of 10 buyers use online platforms. So the pandemic crisis shows the potential of e-commerce as it seems to increase even more both the consumption of consumers via the internet and the way in which they are influenced and reshape their consumer behavior. Through social networking platforms like Facebook, or Instagram or something, a lot of research was done by various companies and research centers to be able to give a clear picture of consumer preferences. Regarding the Greek buyers, there was a certain period of time during the week when they choose to make their purchases. This period was mainly during the end of the week, especially on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it seems that there is a central time on the day or on the week during which consumers choose to shop. At the same time, there was the possibility for consumers to communicate with physical stores, either by phone or online, in real time, so they could ask any questions before making their purchase. This optimization of e-shops and services in general proves that the consumer experience can be further improved. Here we see some statistics about the Greece during the COVID-19 pandemic. Here, figure 2 shows the speed with which Greek consumers, depending on the age group they belong to, are rebuilding their lives so they can respond to the pandemic. We observe that in some cases, consumers do not only change their habits, but their entire way of life so they can cope with the new conditions. For some people, it takes more and for others less. While some consumers consider that their life is not changed due to the pandemic. According to many surveys conducted through social networking platforms, many older people choose a certain way of working with e-commerce compared to younger ones. It seems that young Greeks continue to prefer e-commerce that was created due to the pandemic and they continue to use it. While it seems that older people in Greece, for example, people that are 50 or 60 years old have chosen to return, if not totally, to a greater extent to physical stores from the moment they could do so. For most Greek consumers, it seems that Facebook remains one of the most popular platforms. Research showed that almost half of online shoppers in Greece, still over the age of 45, use this platform to make any purchases. At the same time, it appears that 49% of consumers aged up to 24 will use platforms such as Instagram to make their digital purchases. Here we see a figure 3 above, which indicates that in 2021, during the beginning of the pandemic, there was a greater consumption and purchase of products through e-commerce in Greece compared to other European countries. For Greek consumers, trust in the store and personal contact with the shopkeeper has always been something very important. However, it seems that during this pandemic crisis, even older people saw the positives of e-commerce and chose to take advantage of them. The percentage of people who continue to use e-commerce after the pandemic, at least for older people, has decreased considerably. We can easily say that despite all this, electronic commerce is a new form of e-commerce. Certainly is not going to decline. In the coming years in Greece, we will see an increase in shopping via internet and a decrease in shopping in physical stores. This will have a huge impact on the market whose results are very difficult to predict. Some future changes, long-term changes in e-commerce. We observed some new trends that online stores will have to be able to meet the needs of consumers. In the field of marketing, for example, it seems that there will be a trend of new ideas and new people who will be able to create even better images, sell products, sell services, and offers so that they can attract an even larger audience. E-commerce in the long run will change a lot, and marketing will play a very important role in this change. For example, neuromarketing. Consumers will be able to buy their products not only through computers and phones, but through any electronic device, if they have internet access. At the same time, the marketing campaigns will be optimized to such a level that we will be able to give the consumer options for products and services that they need at any time and moment. This has already started to happen with the growth of the internet and many social networking platforms, but it's very difficult to predict the picture of e-commerce in the next decade. However, one thing we can say for sure is that e-commerce will at some point and beyond replace physical commerce as the main way of buying products and services. Here we also see a figure which presents decrease in traffic to websites with topics such as energy, education, and travel, and an increase in websites with topics such as food, health, medicine, or finance. This increase shows that the public is changing its priorities in terms of what it's looking for in the midst of pandemic. At the same time, there should be a change in marketing strategy on pages that offer products and services that do not seem to fit the preference of the public during the pandemic. Here we see some results of a survey which was carried out in companies. During the pandemic, 26% of companies increased their marketing campaigns. A similar percentage of 24% remained stable, where a percentage of 25% significantly reduced campaigns. The change in consumer behavior played an important role here and increased the percentage of campaigns, and those that decreased in the midst of pandemic were affected by the new wants of consumers. Some conclusions and suggestions for further research. The main conclusions that we came into is that consumer behavior during the pandemic has not only been affected, but created new trends and models for e-commerce. E-commerce has grown tremendously, and the benefits it has been able to provide to consumers during the pandemic have made it a strong competitor. Many organizations began to adapt this new data and promote their online stores by trying to create the right buying conditions. According to some researchers in Greece, it appeared that consumers, especially elderly ones, began to show more confidence in e-commerce as they learned to use online platforms. However, it seems that after the end of the pandemic, they are not interested to continue using e-commerce. According to other research, the new models of consumer behavior that have been created both in Greece and globally is still being completed. As new technologies are constantly coming out on e-commerce, finally, at the same time, businesses are trying with the corresponding feedback to improve the experience they provide to customers. Then e-commerce is certainly very profitable. At the same time, e-commerce is constantly evolving and bringing more and more innovations to this field. A suggestion for future research is to examine consumer behavior through e-commerce in both developed and developing countries to make some comparisons. It is also important for researchers to consider environmental factors that influence consumer behavior. Future research could also be focused on a group of consumers affected by a specific factor or on larger groups with more factors regarding their preferences in e-commerce. Another suggestion is to do a quantitative survey on organizations that thrived during the pandemic and see if their revenue growth or continue to increase or stay the same or declined after the pandemic. The main proposal for future research focuses on consumer behavior and the factors that can influence it in the coming decades. Thank you for your attention.